All right, so I'm going to make a quick video about how to hack the education system with a WGU degree. Um, Western Governors University is a school that's fully accredited by the same accreditation agency that accredits Stanford and places like that. Let me just say before I start this that unlike other streamers, I am not being paid by WGU. I have no sponsorship from them. I have nothing to say. In fact, I will tell you, I do have one person that I private mentor in my group of 20 people that I mentor, who I'm actually meeting with tonight, who is attending WGU for cybersecurity, and he loves it. It's really clear that their cybersecurity degree is tailored towards NSA type jobs. It's got a lot of certificates in it, and they brag about doing it in partnership with the organizations that like that kind of stuff. So we'll come back to that later. But let me just say, when I first was approached, it was actually by this person's mother, who this is a person who doesn't like traditional education, not doesn't really particularly like the college idea in general, and so the mother brought it to my attention. I was like, I don't know, man, I don't know, and I was like seriously skeptical. Like, no, man, there's no way this is any good. This is like another Trump University, another boot camp or something. And the more I got reading about it, it's based out of Salt Lake City, Utah. It's only an American thing, and you can't go if you're European. Unfortunately, we found that out. And I'm not going to pull up their website or anything like that. You guys can pull that up and do your own research. It's called Western Governors University, WGU. And they have a number of programs, all of which I've looked through really extensively to just kind of see what their materials were and stuff. And my conclusion, after actually watching several videos from two different people on YouTube, one of whom is a mechanic, I'll let you find him yourself. Go on YouTube, look for WGU degree or something, and he'll come up. He's a really personable guy who in his 30s or 20s or 30s, and he shares every single day of his experience getting a bachelor's in computer science in under 6 or 7 months for like less than $6,000. Now, he doesn't sleep, and he recommends you take more time to do that. But the reason that I want to tell you, how's it going, Q Macro? The reason I want to tell you about this is because we actually, I couldn't believe it when I first figured this out, but we may have actually found a way to hack the traditional American education system, because you can watch Adam Ruins College, and it will tell you the statistics. You can go watch that video yourself, and you can see where the conclusion of that video and the research behind that video, which they share, is that the exact words were that at every stage in their career, those who get a degree in the United States make an average of 30% more at every stage of their career, but it doesn't say what degree you get. And it doesn't go into the details about, well, maybe people who get degrees are just better employees. It doesn't go into any of that, but that's the statistic they cite. So if it's true that you have to have a degree, and if you want to work for a company like Bosch in Germany, I happen to know firsthand from somebody who, we did a field trip there when they were doing solar energy here in North Carolina. They moved out, but and they said they won't even look at you unless you have a degree. They don't care what the degree is, and they don't care where it's from. And I would temper that particular bit of advice with several people from our stream hiring people have shared that they have actually blacklisted certain colleges because the people that are coming out of there are so low quality. So I'm telling you all the information I know. And so based on that, it still is very possible that you can hack the system either by going to a good community college or by going to WGU. And let me tell you another reason I think WGU really allows the right type of person to hack the system. WGU is entirely funded based on times. So you don't buy by credit hour, you pay by time. So if you take a long time, you pay through the nose, and I imagine that's how they make all their money, because a lot of these people are doing it on their spare time. A lot of teachers get their certificates. In fact, there's a lot of educators, secondary educators, and people like that. They go to WGU. They're really, really popular with helping people get their teacher certificates and all that. And the other place you'll hear about them is there's actually another streamer who did an interview with WGU. You can go find that. And but so yeah, WGU has been around for a long time in the cybersecurity field by training people as fast as possible. So how hack the system? What does that mean? Well, if you get your degree like this person on Facebook on YouTube did, you have an accredited degree, same accreditation agency that accredits Stanford, accredits WGU. The reason WGU is not Trump University is because WGU has been around since the dawn of time, it feels like. Western Governors University was formed because of the need for rural, people out in the boonies, farmers and stuff in the western states during the time before the internet, before phones even, really. I mean, probably phones. But it was formed at a time when they had to have really, really high quality education that was based on correspondence or whatever they could do. So this is not an exaggeration. WGU has been doing remote distance learning longer than any other university in the United States because of the nature of rural education in the West. And that's the governors of the states got together and they said, we need to fix this. What can we do? And they created a university to deal with this. And so it has a long time history of dealing with people. I mean, it's such a big deal. You actually have to go, I don't know if they changed it with COVID, but you had to go into Salt Lake for the graduation ceremony. It's very much a real college. It's not a boot camp. And that was the first thing when I saw that, I was like, oh, okay, well, this is interesting. So in that sense, it's very much an outlier. It's not like, the many online courses you can get. It's not some whatever. And in that sense, I really, I don't know of a lot of people who've gone to other than the person I mentioned, but their stories that come across. I have a search. I have an auto search set up for WGU, and I'm constantly reading about, success stories from individual people who've gotten their degrees while they're going to full-time work and stuff. And the degrees vary. The only caution I have about WGU, there's two reasons to not go to WGU. One of them would be if you don't have the time to 100% focus on it, in which case it's going to get expensive. The same expense as a community college or something, or even a local state school. And a lot in the United States, they're working really hard to bump up the community colleges and make them even accredited at the state level, make them into state schools. They're trying hard to do that. I think it's going to be hard to get people to teach those things. They also accept Canadians. I did not know this. So the number one thing that's so great about WGU, and they're probably having you have to actually apply. You can't just get in. Their programs, you have to talk to it. They have a mentor for you. Ironically though, the mentor has no access to your stuff. The mentor is there to help you get through this stuff, but they can't see your materials, nor can they see your progress. So they're just there to give you somebody to latch onto. So again, the warnings are, if you take a long time to do it, that's a bad idea, right? Another warning is if you feed off of, dealing with other people, if you feed off of that, I need to be in a group to learn kind of thing, this is not for you. They try really hard to create a group dynamic, but it's not for that person. It's just for an independent, nose to the grindstone, work your ass off kind of person. That's who this is for. If that is the case and you need help, I strongly suggest finding a mentor. And it just so happened that I was available for this person who was already in my community. So every time we meet, he tells me what he got on his WGU. He just got his A+ cert last week. By the way, there's over 22 certifications included in the cost of the cybersecurity degree. Let me say that again. 22 certifications included in the cost of the degree. They knew that they were going to have a hard time with establishing trust in the industry because they're a remote kind of thing. So what they've done, for better or worse, is they've partnered with all the people who provide certificates, some of which I've never heard of before. Like the web one was just silly. And so they're partnering with all these certificates, and those are included in the cost. You get to take them twice for free. Some of those certificates, just to take the test, is $400 or $500. So that alone, I mean, if you're able to knock this out in a year, which would be very aggressive, I would suggest maybe 2 years for a 4-year degree. If you want to double it up, which you could totally do that. I think, but if you're going to do that kind of thing, just consider the cost for those certificates you'd have to pay all by itself. I mean, even if every certificate was down to like $200-$300, that's already worth the cost of the entire university enrollment. So not only do you get all of those certificates, which stand on their own, including A+ and a bunch of others, but you get the degree, you get the piece of paper from an accredited institution. So, IRC will be back, but we're just using, you can use IRC, just log into the Twitch. I made a video. You can use Twitch IRC, Quint. Just go get an OAuth token. I made a video about it. So So I'm going to wrap up this video here, and just say give it a look. Honestly, I have nothing to do with them. I hope I don't find anything that's wrong with them. Again, the warnings are, so it's really good for people who can really dedicate and pay that money up front and then go to town. In other words, you're not punished for finishing a class early. You're rewarded. You're rewarded for finishing classes early. If you finish a class early, you saved money. And I think that's amazing. And I think they're going to be setting. In fact, the president of WGU she's in politics over here in North Carolina. So who knows what's going to end up with that? I mean, with the vice president we have right now being really into education, it's very possible that this style of education is going, particularly with COVID, is going to pick up in the United States. I hope it does. Because there's a lot of opportunity for people to get that piece of paper and upgrade their careers the way they need. If you need a piece of paper, if you don't need a piece of paper, hey Sassy, thanks for the fall. If you don't need the piece of paper, then just go for the certificates themselves, but that's a different conversation. I don't want to talk about that right now. So with that, I'm going to move away from the WGU topic. There is only one degree from WGU that really made me wince. I mean, physically wince when I saw it. I'm like, oh my God, I hope no one gets that. And that's the software developer degree. I mean, when I saw, first of all, the first thing on the software developer track is you have to pick from either Java or C#. And the entire thing is that language only. That is physics required for computer science and artificial intelligence. So they don't, okay. It's a piece of paper. They have a pretty decent computer science program from what this person was reporting. They obviously don't work on applications development during that time. So I personally, after watching his videos, and I watch pretty much every one, I could recommend the computer science degree from WGU, computer science degree, in which case you're doing applications development. The guy who did if you watch the YouTube video from this other guy, there's a lot of videos. He ended up doing a native application as his capstone project for his final project. And that was the first time he said that he'd ever written any code to make an app of any kind. So he went ahead and did that. But some of his other lessons about, bitwise arithmetic and, compiler theory and stuff, they were like legit. I mean, they were legit. He talked about how he struggled on some of the materials because the way it was written was a little bit off. But seriously, watch. There's this really personable mechanic who went through WGU, and he talks about it. And you can make your own decision. I would easily and happily get a computer science degree from them. If I was going into cybersecurity, particularly if I wanted to work in any one of the more formal organizations like, the NSA or some of these security firms, the kind you tend to wear more of a tie than, a black hat, then yeah. Now, I'm not particularly interested in that type of security. I also think just getting an OSCP certificate or two is probably better than getting a WGU degree in cybersecurity, in my opinion, unless you're going for a government job, in which case WGU covers the required basis for government cybersecurity jobs, and which suck, but whatever. Government cybersecurity jobs are... They're the reason we're getting owned is because they suck so bad. I'm just going to say it. But if that's the course you want to take, then that they can go. There's a lot of people that do WGU that in the emails that I've read just from the announcements and following searches and stuff. The people who tend to go to WGU are people who are already in corporate. There's a lot of people who get their masters of business degrees from there, so they can go up higher in management. There's lots and lots of teachers who get their certificates and degrees from there on the side. There's cybersecurity is, I think, their number one. I don't know. You have to talk with the official representatives. Computer science, and then there's the software development thing. That's all I have to say about that. So yeah, there's a good chance you can hack the system. You can hack it either with a WGU degree or you pay the least amount of money. Please don't go into debt for college. Don't go into massive debt for college. Get a job. Put yourself through college. I worked 3 jobs through college. I came out with a little bit of debt. I had a Pell Grant, thank God. I came out with now I know this was in the 90s, and I came out with like $8,000 of debt, which I eventually paid off. People are coming out of college right now with 20, 30, 40, 50, sometimes over $100,000 of debt. Don't do that. You don't need to do that. I'm just telling you, don't do that. You don't need to go into that much debt to get a job in tech. I'm not the only one who says this. There's an official affidavit signed by over 12 high-tech industries, including IBM, Google, Facebook, all the FANG companies, that says we do not require a degree for you to work here. They just want you to make sure that you have the skills, which means in the case of IBM, I happen to know there's a number of certificates that they prefer you get and stuff like that. But I'm saying just before you sign on that dotted line and throw away $100,000 thinking you'll make it back in this amazing job, and you're going to go to college, it's not even going to teach you a skill to make that money back because computer science doesn't teach you how to code. That's a fact. You just verify that fact for yourself. So that's all I'm going to say about that. That's why the system can be hacked. That's why it needs to be hacked. And this is one way to hack it that it's come across my information. Somebody was asking me about it. We have 9 minutes left on this video, so I'm going to go ahead and read from the comments here. Oh, thanks for giving out the sub. That was very nice, DS Legends. Appreciate that. All right, so what do we got? Any other stuff that I missed? Studying Active Directory concepts because part of my system path to sysadmin, but I'm not quite sure. You want to be a Dennis, you're probably talking about being a network administrator, I would think. I mean, a Microsoft kind of person. System administrator, open source dev is also a great opportunity. Make it a world of posts. Oh, thank you. IRC's not gone. It's just moved over to Twitch so we have more room. The bridge was getting annoying. Hi, Sassy. I had a doubt that is physics required for comp science or artificial intelligence. No. Math, maybe, not physics. Not much choice. C# is basically the same as Java. Yes and no, but yeah. Model language and software development sounds really bad. Unless you're going to do game development with Unity, in which case it would follow, right? I mean, seriously, if you were going to be, if you really wanted to go into independent game development, getting a software developer degree in C# might actually be relevant. I would never get a degree in a language. I think that's a bad approach. I think you should get a degree. I've heard over and over people say, we don't hire C# programmers, we hire developers. And that means they expect you to know any language quickly. So, you can also prove your skills there without having to get a degree. So it's better to get a degree in an industry and then, learn the coding that goes with the industry. My grandpa in tech, he taught me that same thing. I'm really glad he did. He said, don't just learn coding, learn, an industry and then figure out what coding and technology is required for that industry. Spelled a little differently. About the school, if I would be in America, I would drop out of high school, search for a job, and learn programming to make open source software laugh at it. That's exactly what Snowden did. You might not like Snowden, but Snowden dropped out of high school, got his GRE so that he could move on with his life because the high school system sucked so bad, and he did way better. And he's not the only one. A lot of times people will do that. They'll do early college entrance. I mean, not everybody who's listening to me talk right now is going to be willing or able to do that. But if you can, there's no stigma. They don't give a shit how you got your high school degree. So there's people who drop out at 12, get their GRE, pass the whole fucking thing on their own, or unschool themselves. God, the people who have been unschooled or homeschooled that I have had, that I've mentored, have kicked the shit out of people in the traditional system. They are so overwhelmed with stuff that has no bearing on what they're learning. And the people who do their own homeschooling learn all the same stuff in like a year. And then they're off doing whatever. In fact, it's such a big thing. IBM has a special initiative. It's called the K through 16 school, where you get an associate's degree and they cram it all in there. So, I mean, if you're really committed to doing this, you can be out of high school making tech money by 18 if you want to. Now, it takes a different path from the traditional education in America, but it can be done. I know it can be done. I've seen it done over and over again. In fact, I had one boy who's now off at a state school. I had one boy actually do this. He got a job at 16, and he had his own intern at 18. They gave him an intern for a solar energy company. Gabe, you've seen him in here. He stops by every once in a while. Not exactly Microsoft admin. I'm learning it because it is required in my school. but I'm more of a Linux admin. Nice. I listened to a podcast about open source. They made an interesting comment that use open source software even if you buy proprietary software. You absolutely do. I feel like trying out the college experience instead of actually getting a degree and to have more benefits in future work. It's okay. So we have 4 minutes left. I'm gonna tell you why to go to college. Okay, I've fought through this in my head a lot. There's 4 reasons to go to college. All right, one is to get a skills that you can be employed at, which is unfortunately the thing colleges suck at. 2 is to find yourself. It's to like explore yourself, psychologically, philosophically, find out who you are, sexually, 3, it's to meet people, meet your potential wife, network, meet all those people you're going to get a job with later, join Skull and Bones if you want to be an American politician, all of these networking things. And the 4th reason is so that you can learn how to do your own laundry. Make your own meals, be an independent person. You can do any of those 4 things other ways. You can do those things other ways. You don't have to go to college. It just so happens that college for the very long time has been the most convenient way to do all 4 things. And you can go abroad. A lot of people are combining going abroad with that. You can go abroad and go to college in Germany or Romania or someplace and go to college for free, by the way, learn a language, meet a lot of people, make international contacts that will help you out in America as well if you decide to come back. There's lots of college opportunities for you out there if you want to do those things. This video was about WGU, but it's worth putting that out there since somebody asked the question. I'm listening about if you're committed enough, though, not that easy to do for most people. It depends on who you are. The person that I have that I'm mentoring right now is 100% committed to doing this. But if you can commit to it, you can do it. Let me just say something, by the way. I got 3 minutes left to rant on this point. If you're not committed enough to do this, you have a problem. And I don't mean that to pick fight. What I mean is, if something about this scares you, if something about being 100% responsible for your own learning scares you, you have a problem. Because you have ultimately, you've been trained by the oppressive pedagogy of our time, according to Paulo Freire, Pedagogy of the Oppressed. You have been trained and conditioned to be afraid of the freedom to learn on your own. Those are not my words. Those are Paulo Freire's words from 1968. And he, you have been a part of a system that has told you that you're either not allowed to learn on your own, or if you do, you're a bad person. It's never going to be as good as learning through the system. This is not real. This is fake shit from a system that's designed to oppress you and make sure that you do what is needed. And so if you are afraid of doing your own learning and not going to college because college is going to be better, or this school is going to be helpful, I don't trust myself to do it on my own, you have a problem. Because you are afraid of being responsible for your own learning. Let me tell you something. One of the things people cite that college teaches you all the time is that when you go to college, it teaches you how to learn. That's bullshit. You go to college and what they do is they throw you out to the wolves. They don't actually guide your instruction the way they did in high school. And you fucking learn it on your own or you die. And so you end up learning it by being thrown into the situation, and you have people around you who help support you, your friends and peers and everybody. That's like my calculus class story about going to the learning lab and finding out that's where learning was happening. But the point of the matter is that you don't have to learn how to learn. You don't have to get over that fear for taking responsibility for your learning in college. You can put yourself through that learning process now. And by the way, if you don't do that, you are not going to be hireable. If you do not figure out how to manage your own learning, how to own it as your own boss, how to be a true autodidact, and have a learning plan that you're constantly reviewing and constantly fixing, you will not be employable. And you will ultimately get fired because you will go there and you will blame. I've heard this over and over again. I got 1 minute left. I heard this over and over again. People within the enterprise blame the enterprise because they're not learning. They're not giving me enough training. They're not doing this. They're not doing this. That's not how it works. And the person is the problem. And by the way, they always end up getting fired or laid off because they have proven that they are not independent and getting their skills that they need to do the fucking job. Your employer wants you to do your job. They don't want to hear you whine about how you can't learn what's necessary on that job. So I'm giving you a reality check here, because if you are afraid of taking on your own learning for any reason, you need to really look at yourself and say, why am I afraid of that? Now, again, employment's about trust, and sometimes that piece of paper helps with the trust. But that is a secondary thing to your learning. The piece of paper in the program is not going to help you learn it any better. You're still going to have to learn it on your own. It might give you structure about what to learn or a list of things to learn and master. It might give you a little bit of help with your own assessment, but you need to be able to do your own self-assessment when you don't have a test to take to tell you whether you passed or not. You need to be able to learn how to assess yourself on everything. All right. I'm over my time. I'm going to end up with that rant. Thank you so much. We got a couple more comments, and I'll let these go over. The problem with schools are that the education system is so much drilled like you have learned it. Otherwise, they will beat your ass off. They will. So, like, what do you exactly learn? The math topic was a formula about. These things are essential to make sense out of your future job. If you learn just to get the damn degree, then I would totally drop out. 80% of the knowledge is about things you will never need anymore in your life. It's totally true. So, Ferry also argues, how's it going? That most education is based around the banking system where a teacher deposits knowledge and radically changes power balance. I love that stuff. Thank you for reading that, providing that. If anybody wants to read more about where this is coming from, Paulo Freire is your dude. Unschooled kid from the 90s here. Didn't even get into tech until my 20s. One thing that needs considered is mental state. I suffer from near constant imposter syndrome. Even though I've been successful, I have a really good gig. It's a constant source of stress. I made a video about this. So this is definitely a video. I'm gonna punch this other video for you. I made a video called "I Suck, I Rock," and I specifically talk about imposter syndrome and why imposter syndrome is actually a good sign. Imposter syndrome means that you question your skills and you're constantly learning more. I have it too. The opposite of that, the cognitive dissonance that comes from, or Dunning-Kruger effect, which means you think you know but you don't realize you don't know, is the opposite danger. And it's actually much better. If you're having imposter syndrome, that's good. Now you have to learn to check it and give yourself small successes so you can pat yourself on the back and see how you're improving. But imposter syndrome is usually a good sign. That means that you're pushing yourself to always learn more. And people that have been, there's a guy who didn't get his high school degree. He's done many successful tech jobs. It's in my community, and same exact situation. It points to CS in my opinion. Right. Some people are not structured and like the fact that they are taken care of in that respect. Yes. There are some, obviously, okay, so Quince, it's important I point this out. You can't all of a sudden teach yourself to be a doctor, right? So there are certainly some careers where that has to be the case. You can show an interest in anatomy and learn everything necessary to be a doctor, but you still ultimately have to have that piece of paper because society has decided that that's required for our safety. Electricians, same sort of thing. You can also go get a journeyman apprenticeship for electricians in Minnesota, and they'll pay you $17 an hour to teach you a skill. People are not looking at the trades anymore because the trades are unsexy for some reason. But God, I would, if I could do that, right? If I knew that, my wife read that fact to me the other day, and I was like, man, if I could go be paid $17 an hour to be trained to be an electrician, and then take that electrician knowledge and combine it with electronics and programming, holy cow. I mean, that's a crazy, amazing learning path that immediately pays great money. Did you know, like, full-time electricians make $70 an hour? $70 an hour. That's more than I make. So, I mean, don't put aside the trades. There are a number of trades. They can't get machinists anymore because they're unsexy. Plumbers, people like that, they make crazy amounts of money, but people don't want to look at the trades anymore. So that don't rule those out either. You can always, level up your trade to something else as you go. Some people are not structured like the fact that they're taken care of that respect. If you need to be taken care of, that's a problem. I think teaching them structure is the key so that they are able to manage their own learning. Yeah, but you know what really pisses me off about college and everything else? I'm sorry. What do you really think, right? I'm 3 minutes over. The thing that annoys me about the education system right now, raise your hand if you had a class that taught you how to learn. Nope. I did. And I talk about it in my autodidactic series. When I was in middle school, I was identified early as a G&T, gift and talent, whatever the fuck that means. And so I got to take classes from people who taught us the skills of learning. Professor Lundquist taught me in sixth grade how to learn. He taught me how to use, Bloom's taxonomy and a bunch of other things, critical theory, and he taught me how to learn. The first thing they taught us in that class was how to learn on our own. And it's just a short version of my whole autodidactic series, which is like 6 hours. But the point is, and the point is that schools do not teach you how to learn. And Freire would say that's because it's not in their best interest to do so. If they do that, then you'll go out and do your own thing and ask why, and you'll question the system, and you'll like disrupt the status quo. I don't know why schools do not teach you how to learn. They teach you what to learn. They hold you accountable for that in an antagonistic way, but they don't even fucking teach you how to learn. They don't tell you how to take notes. They don't teach you how to do the structures of like deconstructing arguments, and not always. I mean, it's very hard. I haven't heard of it. If it is out there, I very rarely ever heard of it. And usually it's always saved for, these special people that are identified in the school, which is stupid. Teaching guys and gals structure versus discipline. Yes. Try to teach soldiers sticks. Yes, absolutely. Autos equals self from the Greek. Yep, there it is. Thank you. Thanks for the video. Check it out. Yesterday I searched for an internship because my school needs a month of validation that I had some experience at a company. So I wanted to get into software development, but every time I search for internships that are available in my location, they always say software engineer, and that job sucks. Because you only develop software for boring business requirements. I don't know what to do anymore. The world is just so destroyed. You're just going to have to find your way, and you're going to have to take a job that might not be doing what you want. And that's it. Do I want to be maintaining this full-time job? Would I rather be live streaming and helping people learn all day, every day? Hell yeah. But society has decided I can't have a mortgage nor insurance unless I have a full-time job in America. That is what my society has decided. I complain and get angry about it every day practically, but that's the way it is. And thank God I have a job and an internet access, because half the world doesn't. So, we have to deal with what we've been given. I think we're kind of going off the rails here. They give you a book and tell you that's it. Exam in 5 months. Yep. That's what it is. Look, they don't tell you how to learn, and so you actually figure it out on your own. And those who don't figure it out on their own end up being the people who come visit your cubicle every 5 minutes. And you know who I'm talking about. If you're a professional, you know that person. Everybody has one of those people in their environment. And how long do they last? They don't last very long. They don't. Because they haven't learned it. It's really sad, actually. The reason I'm doing all of this crazy shit in my free time, people look at my schedule and think I've lost my fucking mind. The reason I'm doing this is because they don't. It's like literally a critical need in our society for people to learn how to learn and to have the faith in themselves to be able to do those things. And they're not taught it. And if some of them end up, in the sides of the streets because they literally are dependent on other people to come into their cubicle and ask them questions all the time, or they're in Slack asking questions all the time. How do I do this? Or they haven't learned how to learn, and they're like, you're always like, let me Google that for you, right? And so anyway, I don't want to make this negative. WGU is one way to beat the system. Unschooling is another way to beat the system. Dropping out of high school and getting your GRE is a very legitimate way to do this if you do it. There's no stigma against the GRE, particularly if you get it early. So that's what's up. Yeah. And I'm just going to say one more time. I feel like I'm unusually fortunate, to have been, in fact, it gets me a little bit emotional. I did a whole video on this, but I feel like I'm unusually fortunate to have been identified early in the system when I was in 5th or 6th grade and given lots and lots of opportunities that are not given to others. Not just because of whatever they perceived, but also my socioeconomic status. And I don't want to go there, but I feel like I need to give back because so many other people don't have the opportunities I had. And I wasn't particularly wealthy growing up. In fact, my family was very poor. I did a paper out of 14 years old. But the school system, the public school system identified me and allowed me to do a special track that ended up benefiting me more than others. And I kind of have survival guilt for that. So I try to help others. I have FOMO, fear of others missing out. I don't have FOMO because I know I'll figure it out even if I miss it. But I have FOMO big time. I have a strong fear of others missing out. I'm going to take a break. I'm going to call it for this video, but give it a shot. Go look, join our community. It's not about me. It's about everybody. Really, I enjoy running this community, but there's so many people in here who help each other out, including those who have helped me get this full-time job in our community. So we're here for you. You're not alone. If it's not me, there's dozens of other fantastic streamers and communities here that are here to help you learn and help you move forward. All right, bye.